Hello, and welcome to the first edition of the Country Yankee Guide to Everything. Today, we're going to be showing you how to prepare a traditional French duck confit. We've defrosted a couple of ducks from the local grocery store, but we highly recommend picking up something from a local purveyor. For the first process, it's very important that you work with some sharp knives. We start by removing the wingtips. This is a good idea no matter how you're preparing your duck, as they don't contain any meat and are prone to burning in the oven. You can see here that we're taking great care to salvage any fat that would otherwise be lost. Since duck fat is such a high commodity, most of the fat has already been removed prior to the packaging. Now we start to remove the breast from the duck. Carefully glide the knife into the breast, keeping the blade as close to the rib cage as possible. You can typically slice through this rear joint if you find the tendon. As you're butchering the duck, take care to try to keep as much of the meat intact as possible. Once you've gotten to this point and removed most of the breast, you should be able to simply pop out the leg joint. Once it is dislocated, you should be able to easily slice through the remaining skin and tissue, leaving you with one clean piece. You can see we've skipped ahead and done the same with both sides of the duck. We've also collected all the excess fat, which we will render down later. Now we begin to remove the skin from the breast. We're using a boning knife with a gentle flicking motion as to not damage the meat and carefully remove the skin. We want to expose as much of the meat as possible so that the salt can get in there and denature the meat. At long last, we're ready to start the seasoning process. Here you can see we've mixed together some kosher salt and sugar, along with peppercorns and juniper berries. Traditionally, duck confit seasoning contains a myriad of spices, including items such as ginger, cinnamon, coriander, cumin. Get creative, but keep in mind that you want to have the right amount of salt depending on the kind of preservation method that you want to use. See details in the description below. Since we're using the traditional method, we're going to set our duck aside in a cool, dry place to cure for 48 hours. In the meantime, we're going to render our fat by covering it in water. We also add baking soda to prevent the fat from yellowing. One of the nice parts about using whole ducks is that we have a lot of nice scraps to make a stock with. Our duck has finally been cured. We've removed all the liquid from the pan and carefully dried each piece of duck. Be sure to generously pad the duck with as much garlic and shallots as possible. This is where all the flavor comes from. You can see how much fat we were able to render out. A valiant effort indeed, but we still needed to add some store-bought duck fat. It's important to find the right size pan so that the fat can effectively cover all the duck. After 3.5 hours at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, we now have our delicious golden duck confit. Now we remove the meat from the bones. This is optional. If you're using this long-term preservation method, it's important not to let any air bubbles get stuck in the bottom of the jar. This can lead to unwanted bacterial growth. You also want to make sure there's a substantial layer of fat residing on the top of the jar. When done right, this traditional method can last for up to 5 months. There you have it, duck confit, ready for a tasty snack or a cassoulet. If you liked our video, please make sure to like and subscribe.